Good afternoon or good evening, everyone. Welcome to AJL Meets the Candidate. Meet the Candidates. Kelvin Watson for ALA President is joining us today. I want to start by welcoming you and introducing myself and some of my AJL colleagues. I'm Sally Stieglitz. I am a member of ALA and a member of AJL, and I am also the editor-in-chief of the AJL News and Reviews, a sparkling publication that comes out quarterly. I also serve on the AJL Council, and I'm joined today with my fellow coordinator for this event, Sean Boyle, who is the president of AJL Schools, Synagogues, Centers, and Public Libraries Division, and also a member of AJL Board. On behalf of Sean and myself, I want to thank you for joining us today. Before we introduce our guest, Kelvin Watson, candidate for ALA president, let me tell you a little bit about AJL. In 1946, the Jewish Librarians Association was founded and composed of academic, archival, and research institutions. The Jewish Library Association was founded in 1962, and it emphasized work in synagogue, school, and community center libraries. These two associations merged in 1966 as the Association of Jewish Libraries, or AJL. In 2010, AJL became an affiliate of the American Library Association and is currently one of its 7 ethnic affiliates. Today, AJL is the leading authority on Judaic librarianship and a vibrant, volunteer-run, nonprofit professional organization that fosters access to information and research in all forms of media relating to all things Jewish. The association promotes Jewish literacy and scholarship and provides a community for peer support and professional development. Before we move on to today's program, I just want to introduce our president, Kathy Bloomfield, and invite her to say a few words.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for this very special event. I want to also extend a special thank you to Kelvin for taking his time to be with us and answer some of our questions. If those of you are here who are not members, if you want to join, I'll be putting the join link in the chat soon. But I welcome you all, whether you're a member or not. I am a member of ALA as well as a member of AJL, as obviously. But I really appreciate Sean and Sally, you bringing this together for us. And I look forward to this conversation. Should be very interesting. So welcome.
Thank you, Kathy. And thank you for all your support in making this program happen.
Sally, you're muted.
I apologize.
All right.
Signs of the times. I'd like to start by introducing you to Kelvin Watson, Executive Director at Las Vegas Clark County Library District, and one of 2 candidates for the ALA presidency for the 2023-2024 term. Among his professional service, Mr. Watson currently co-chairs ALA's Digital Content Working Group and serves on the ALA Business Advisory Group. He has served on the ALA Committee on Accreditation, on the ALA Presidential Task Force. He was an ALA Spectrum Scholar, which I invite him to speak a little more about when it's his opportunity, a RUSA, that's Reference and User Services, Spectrum Intern, and an AASL member Spectrum Scholar. From 2018 to 2021, he was a Public Library Association Director at Large. He's also active in Bacala, one of our sister affiliates, serving as a fundraising chair, a budget finance chair, and as president from 2014 to 2016, and as executive board member from 2006 to 2018. Kelvin also serves on the board of the Book Industry Study Group and was recently appointed to the Digital Public Library of America board. He's a candidate for OCLC's Global Council and is a member of ALA's Standards for Library Services for Incarcerated and Detained Individuals Working Group. Welcome, Kelvin. Thank you for joining us this afternoon, evening.
Thank you, Sally, and thank you for inviting me. Thank you, Kathy, as well for organizing this event. And I look forward to having a great conversation today.
That's wonderful. So just to kick us off, why did you decide to run for ALA president?
So I decided to run, honestly, it's been many years that the ALA Presidential Search Committee has reached out to me over the last 10 years, asking if I was run for ALA president. And at that time, I didn't think that it was my time to run. I was still learning. I was still learning in the profession, I think. And I also was learning more about ALA. So since then, I have served on multiple ALA committees and task forces. The primary work that I had done within the library profession had been with BCLA. So I had more knowledge of BCLA than I did of ALA, and I wanted to get that. But also, I felt like I've garnered that, and I continue to work with the committees and just learn more about policy making, and have grown in my leadership and management experience as well. And COVID and what we've experienced with COVID and with ALA's new pivot strategy, I felt like now was the time for me to put my name in the hat to run for ALA president. One of the things that that coincidentally coincided with ALA's pivot strategy, though I didn't know about Tracy implementing that, the executive director. One of the things that I talked about and did as the Broward County's libraries director was talk about pivoting to proceed, and pivoting out of COVID, and putting in how we as libraries and library leaders, regardless of what type of library, had to think about our service models and look at our service models, look at our partnerships, and deliver our services in another way. And so those are the things that I had done a lot over my career in transforming library services, not just looking at the library services inside of our buildings, but also outside of those buildings and collaborations as well. So that's a long answer, but I really felt like now was my time and to do that based on my career experiences, the management experience, the political things that are happening. I say things, but politically speaking about all of the intellectual freedom issues and the censorship, and that we're just a stronger organization when we stand together. And you mentioned some of the work that I do with, I actually have now been elected as an OCLC, Americans Global Council member. So when you talk about the things that I'm doing with other organizations, including ALA, I feel like now's the time for ALA to also build some better coalitions with these other organizations as well.
Well, we were chatting before we let everyone else in the room. You shared something significant about your role as a Spectrum Scholar. Do you mind repeating that?
Sure. So I am currently the first, or am the first Spectrum Scholar to actually stand for the ALA presidential role to be president. So I am a 2006 Spectrum Scholar, and as some of you may know, Spectrum, the Spectrum Scholar program was developed and implemented to support and recognize diverse leaders and or candidates or potential leaders. And so I feel like I just learned that yesterday. So upon learning that, I looked back and said, this is what Spectrum was meant to do, and that is to create the future leaders, to talk about, to implement transformative library services, and to look at libraries differently and promote diversity within the profession. And one of the things that I'll say as we move on, diversity to me is not just about people's skin color or diversity is where we come from. Diversity, I've lived in lived all over the country. So I say diversity is bringing different thoughts to the table, and so as well. So diversity is not just, again, that's about color. It's about diversity in general, in all the walks of life that we have. So that's Spectrum. I'm happy that I'm happy to be the first even to stand and to actually be the product of Spectrum and to accomplish what Spectrum was put in place to accomplish.
Feels like a milestone.
Thanks.
So now that you want to be our president, can you give us an idea what your vision is?
So my vision for ALA, and you're only ALA president for 1 year, so you get to be president-elect, president, past president, but so you start that journey as president-elect. So my vision for ALA is continuing the transformation that the ALA needs to make, but also pivoting at the same time, really focusing on a stronger membership, professional development, looking at not just our legislative opportunities at a national level, but what I've learned in my career is that politics is local. Politics is local, and a lot of these challenges that we're experiencing with censorship, for example, and intellectual freedoms and the diversity issues are really local as well. I mean, they're local issues that are happening. So I want to focus on those. EDI issues, a lot of my experience has been about expanding broadband access and I'll say eliminating the digital divide. So I want to take a lot of my experiences that I've done locally from a library standpoint and bring those to scale as ALA president and get the buy-in from folks like the National Association of Counties and National Association of Cities, and but also bring a lot of the programs and partnerships that I've worked on, and I'm actually currently working on, say, a workforce development program that I'm partnering with the College of Southern Nevada on, and the Clark County School District, and the Las Vegas Clark County Library District is there, and to create what I'm calling instead of a pipeline to prison, that we create pipelines to education, literacy, workforce, and I looked at when we're running for president and all these, you have all of these, I just gave all of these grand plans and thoughts on some things, but more specifically towards the membership, if you're familiar with the Leroy Merritt Humanitarian Fund that helps support individuals who is devoted to support, and I'll summarize, individuals who have been maybe fired because they have wanted to focus on defending intellectual freedoms, for example. This fund is designed to help support the profession. So I have been working on receiving pledges to promote professionals, primarily new members into the profession, to help them regardless of their ethnicity, or so it's not an EDI diversity fund, but it really focuses on these new professionals who may need assistance with relocation. You have a new job, or you have a job opportunity. You live in New York. The job is in Florida. You don't have any money, or you're low on funds. I want to create a fund that ALA has for members to go to actually be able to have to receive some assistance to help them with relocation and other things, so they don't miss out on opportunities, or they have I don't know if you've seen members creating GoFundMe to help support their relocation. So I have already received pledges of over $50,000 to help support members in this way. That
sounds like it's a practical solution. And from what I've heard from you in the past, Kelvin, I know that that's your vibe, is applying creative and practical solutions to problems. So for my next question, I'd like to focus on some of the concerns from AJL members. Some of us have experienced microaggressions when trying to participate in ALA. For example, there are book award committee meetings that are regularly held on Friday nights or Saturdays, which you may not realize, but observant Jews are not able to attend meetings on those nights or days. Another example is the upcoming JCLC conference is being held on Yom Kippur, which is the holiest day in the Jewish calendar. In actuality, a significant number of Jews identify as people of color, and yet they and all other Jewish librarians are made to feel unwelcome at the JCLC. So we feel there's kind of a tone deafness when it comes to our concerns. How would you advise us to address those concerns? And do you think there could be meaningful change under your leadership?
Well, what I'll say is I am familiar with those concerns, actually. So interestingly enough, as the Broward County Library's director, I lived in the Jewish neighborhood, actually in Dania Beach, near Sterling Road Library. And so one of the things that probably the first thing I did was when I heard those concerns. So I'm a person, as you said, Sally, I listen, I work to take action and make things happen. So the branch was open on Fridays. And I worked to change the hours immediately once those concerns were brought to me to recognize. So I recognize those issues. And I would say, and I don't know if this has already happened, but for JCLC, I'm a member of, as I said, past president of BCLA, was around when the JCLC organization was created. I have a question. I guess, have those concerns been brought to the JCLC leadership? Because I know most of those folks, and I think those are things that definitely are issues of, and being more inclusive is that's my mantra. So how would I change that? My goal is to, again, always be inclusive and to look at those opportunities. And if we aren't, and some folks don't always know these things, so we have to be educated on them. And then once we know better, we definitely should work to do better in ALA, because we are a membership organization. We should be focused on all of our members, regardless of what type of library, et cetera. So I'll stop right there, Sally, and let you answer my question.
I'm just going to toss this over to Kathy for a second in case she knows the answer to that question.
Yeah, I know that a couple of us we have two ALA liaisons, Emily Bergman and Susan Cusell, and both of them, I don't know if Susan's here, I know Emily's here. Both of them are trying to work with the various people they have alignment with in order to just ask people to look at a calendar. That, if you just look at, most calendars have Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, the major Passover, the major Jewish holidays on them. If you just look at a calendar, and if there's any question, you have access to AJL, we're an affiliate. You have access to Emerit, which has a Jewish division that Emily is the chairperson of. There's access to Jewish people that can help you answer these questions. I believe we're making some inroads, Kelvin. That's what I'll say. We're making some inroads. It's a slow process. So I don't know whether anybody talked to the JCLC about the Yom Kippur event. I know that event happens every 2 years, I think it is, or every 3 years. I can't remember. But, again, it's just a question of, we're just asking people to look at a calendar. I know it's kind of simplistic, but that's sort of the way we're approaching it.
Understood.
Yeah.
I would, so I think I'm glad that you're making inroads.
Yes.
And certainly, I just go straight to the JCLC. One of my thoughts would also be to, maybe it's time for us to even expand JCLC beyond the 5 ethnic
feeling in our goal. One of the things, the last time we ever met in person, which seems like 100 years ago, I did mention to the JCLC that we do, there are many Jews of color, but regardless of the color of our skin, though many of us appear white, if you and I both walked into a Proud Boys meeting, we would both be targets for, I as a Jew, you as a man of color, would both be targets for these groups. And we are all targets of these hate groups. And as you know, anti-Semitism is rising throughout the world. This is a huge concern of ours. And we really want to do our best to educate people about what that means. So we're making these little step-by-step inroads, and it's good to know that there's somebody who would hear our voice. That's and offer us a seat at the table. That's really all we're asking for.
Yes, and I again, Kathy, and you're hearing it from me. I even made the suggestion. Maybe it's time we open the doors, because as I said, I was there when the conversations were taking place to actually incorporate JCLC and make JCLC an actual organization. I was actually the president of BCALA.
Yeah.
But what I'll also say, and this is what I would say to my colleagues in JCLC, is that just like we offer membership in our caucuses to anyone, it should be the same across the board, right? I tell people all the time about BCALA or even ALA. I talk to people about ALA membership as well, but BCALA, I'll start there and say, if you can say library, you can be a member, right? If you know what a library is, you know where the library is. And I have lots of conversations with, because I've been having conversations about increasing membership, ALA membership, for many years. And some of the things that I'll also share about my career is I started as a vendor. That was not probably, so so after the Army, I worked for Ingram Library Services. I was not a librarian. Ingram introduced me to the Black Caucus of the American Library Association as a vendor. I became a member of BCALA in 1999. I was on the board of BCLA's executive board before I received my library degree. So I've worked in, I've gone to every MLK celebration that we had as a vendor, as a librarian. So that's the inclusiveness that I'm talking about. So we should definitely be there. But where I was going with that is that I've also been encouraging, for example, vendors to become ALA members.
Yes.
Because they believe that you have to be a librarian to join. And it's like, no, you should, this is an inclusive organization, ALA, BCLA, and so JCLC. And so again, I would be right there with you, beside you, in front of you, not behind you, to make this, to see how we can make that happen.
Well, I would love to work with you on that. So that's great. Thank you.
Thank you, Kelvin. Thank you, Kathy, for jumping in. Okay, so moving on to my next question, again, on microaggressions. There's an ALA publication that says something that's kind of a well-known refrain. It says, believe colleagues when they tell you about their experiences. Being dismissive of your colleagues' accounts and feelings or claiming that they have been too sensitive are in themselves microaggressions that invalidate their experiences and cause harm. A lot of us have had that experience in Jewish librarians. So how do AJL members and other Jewish librarians get our voices heard and respected and responded to and have our experiences believed about what anti-Semitism we've experienced? I don't want to get into the details of what those are right now.
Yeah.
I don't want to put you in any position of having to defend people, who said things that are not you. But people think that these experiences are not microaggressions and they're not anti-Semitism when we say that's anti-Semitic.
If I haven't gotten across in the last few minutes, that I am right there with you. Not on the anti-Semitism, certainly, but as a man of color, I have certainly experienced my own microaggressions, point blank discrimination. even in my career, and even though I've been successful in doing things, and have had to experience those. And so again, it's being that's the one of the things that I'm gonna say what I'm gonna say. One of the things that as ALA president, I'm going to continue to challenge ALA as well as all of our organizations on, and that is being intentional about reaching all people in all walks of life. And that starts with us listening and believing, because people may not even believe my experiences of the things that I've gone through. But again, it's about educating and being able to share those and listen. And that's how we're going to be able to learn from those. One of the things that somebody asked me earlier to pull up my favorite quote of an African-American leader. And so my favorite quote is the Dr. King quote, and I won't read it all, but I would say some of it, that we are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality tied in a single garment of destiny. So we are all in this together. And that's, again, is what I champion. And whether it be, from whatever walk of life you're from, LGBTQ, LB, I don't mess it up. I got to know there's a lot more LGBTQA plus, but people of all walks of life, diversity of any color, of any issue, any religion. I think a lot of, and I use the word intentionally, because a lot of things that we've done within the organization, I'm a member of ALA, like you are. I don't believe ALA has always been intentional about doing some of the things that we need to do. And so as ALA president, I'm going to push the membership as well as the ALA organizational body and Tracy Hall, who's a friend of mine, to have these. We don't just need to have the difficult conversations. We need to take action. And that is the piece. We've been having conversations for years. Let's take some action. And one of the things that I'm proud of and proudest of is that I'm a person who takes action. If you know me, I take action. I don't sit around and, and that's been my frustration even as an ALA member. And I'll admittedly say that, is that we haven't always been intentional about executing actions. I sat at those tables at ALA. I can't remember which one, where we had we had after I guess it was after the killing in St. Louis. And we had these diversity conversations, and we had these round tables, and I sat at these tables, and I don't think we've made much inroads. We've made some, but we haven't made enough. And we really need to make those inroads now because of all of the challenges that we are facing in this profession as information professionals, as librarians, that are coming at us.
So I think you just answered my next question, but I'll read it to you in case you have something to add. It was, what do you bring to the table that is unique and will help ALA move forward? I think you just answered that.
Well, I'll add to that. I've got a very strong management background. I've managed and led libraries, management and leading. So managing is one thing, leading is another. I've led large organizations up, over $80 million and, I was a COO at chief operating officer at Queens Library. We had over 1,500 employees. So I'm used to managing large organizations. I have a business background. So as I said, I started out as a vendor at Ingram, and then after that, I worked at Borders Book Group as one of their directors. And then I also worked for the Library Corporation as well in business development. So I started the first half of my career in business. So I understand those things about business. And so I have a strong management, business credentials, partnerships. A lot of the work that I've been able to deliver on and my teams have been able to deliver on have been through partnering. So I am that person who can say, you know what, let's get in here and let's work on, for example, here in Las Vegas, putting digital access on 400 buses. And I was able to do that in a month of my arrival. So I got here in February. I was able to build that partnership and sell that idea to the head of the Southern Regional Transit Commission to do that. And we rolled that out in September. That's
so ALA will be fixed immediately.
ALA won't be fixed. It won't be fixed immediately because I got a year. So, but we're going to be, what I'll say is we'll be tactical and strategic on what it is that we can deliver on. I'll also say that I've had conversations with both Patty and Lessa about their strategies and where my vision and strategies align with theirs. And so there'll be some continuation of work that they'll start that they won't that I will come in to hopefully take to the finish line. Some of it I will be able to, and some of it, frankly, I won't be. But that I have already established alignment with the current ALA president as well as the president elect.
Okay, so we're starting to get some questions in the chat. I'm just going to turn my head to read some to you. Okay, one question is, what is your most rewarding experience as a librarian?
Oh, I have a ton. I think one. Can I do two? I got a lot, but I'll do two. One of the most rewarding was, as I mentioned, I was a member of the Black Caucus of the American Library Association when I was a vendor. And to ultimately become a president of that organization, that was the pinnacle for me. And then I also have numerous BCLA awards that I'm very proud of because of my work in the African American community and with services. Another proud moment that I've been it's just where I am in my career. That's what I'll say. I look back and I wouldn't have seen myself be here when I graduated from high school and went into college and was a commissioned officer in the Army. And now I am the executive director of the Las Vegas Clark County Library District. I've worked at, 3 major public libraries. I also worked I worked at the National Agricultural Library as well. Where I was the head of acquisitions and chief collection development officer. And so if that second one would be just the summary of my journey, and my journey is still going on. And that would be what I would say, that I've been most proud of is those things and the contributions that I've been able to make in changing people's lives, and that I get to do that every day. I actually get to do that every day.
Great answer. So our next question is, protecting intellectual freedom is a core ALA value. How do librarians address requests to pull books when the author is accused, convicted of heinous crimes?
Well, certainly, there's no one answer to that, in my opinion. I mean, we're dealing with these challenges. What I'll give it a two-pronged answer. One is that, if you want to know what Kelvin believes and where I stand, I believe that we should make all resources available. That's my position. I'm not nor should we be. I mean, I get book challenges that come to me now. And we pretty much stand based by our collection development policy. And the collection development librarians, I support their decisions and the resources that we have and make available. But overall, part of the censorship to me and the intellectual freedom challenges that we're having is because people are creating their own versions of history, in my mind, that they don't want to look at what has happened. And I don't think that that we should just, I don't want to get political, but I mean about politics, but we have a lot of politicians, quote unquote, who are criminals, and they write books, and we have them in our libraries.
Wow.
Or and other people, let's just say it.
Yeah.
Or people that do lots of do things that sometimes doesn't even come to light, that we don't even know of or are aware of, and we have the resources in our library. So I believe that if we have those challenges coming at us, and our answer should be, that's why we have policies. We have these, that's how we have policies. We should be following those, and that's our way there. But beyond that, with these boards, school boards, and as well as library boards, who are making these decisions because they again want to make decisions for everyone, when it's really about making their individual decision for example, for their child, which is, that's not what democracy is. That's against our First Amendment rights. That is something, again, that we have to stand. That's what we stand up for, and that's what ALA. That's our role, to stand up and fight those challenges. But also at the same time, we need to do a better job. We need to do a better job, in my opinion, in educating some of these leaders who are appointing some of these people to these boards. And we also need to, do better. We can do better, not do better, but we can do better in educating in our communities. And so that's where I stand.
Okay, the next question is, what is your vision on how libraries support lifelong learning needs?
So my vision on that is that libraries are open to everyone at all ages, and I put something in place that I still am using here. I did it in Broward. I'm using it here. It's called inviting the uninvited. So that is making sure that as the library, that we are open and available to anyone, regardless of, again, your income level, where you live, where you grew up, where you're from, how much money you have. And so our role is to continue to make resources available. But before we make resources available, we have to make sure the access is there, right? We got to make sure that people can access the resources. If COVID didn't teach us anything, that there's a lot of people who don't have broadband access at home. They don't have the internet. So I'm focusing on the full gamut of lifelong learning through access, discovery, and delivery of that content, whether that be physical and or digital content, or that is just even about learning about technology, or is learning about how to balance your checkbook, how
Please
to do your
help me
taxes,
with that.
so lifelong learning is not just about books and what you can learn, being literate there. It's about being literate in all aspects of your life. Your cell phone, for example, this thing is the most powerful tool that we carry around, and people don't know how to use it. All they do is post on social media or take pictures and make calls. That's it. But there's so much power there. And so, but if you take examples of my support of lifelong learning, including Career Online High School, where I would actually take funds from our collections budget when the state stopped supporting Career Online High School to support that program. That's what I'm about when it comes to lifelong learning, making sure that we as a library are making that available to people, to change people's lives. Again, I go back to that lifelong learning. We're here to do that, either to deliver it directly or deliver it indirectly, because we're partnering with someone else. I also want to add real quick, Sally, this spring, we're going to be launching here in Las Vegas. I'm partnering with the College of Southern Nevada to offer their classes. They're going to offer their classes out of one of my library locations in our East Las Vegas library, because one of my thoughts has been, why should we have people travel to a central campus? We should just bring the campus to them. And the library, we have the space, it's already paid for. I'm already paying electricity, so on and so forth. And it helps when a person who might have challenges getting to that location because of childcare issues or money overall, and the library is right in walking distance, right? Or the library is right on the bus route, right? Easily accessible. So that's a couple of examples, or a few examples of my thoughts when it comes to lifelong learning. And I'm still learning. I'm a lifelong learner. I'm actually working on my MBA right now. I'm in school right now. So during COVID,
So you don't sleep, Kelvin, apparently.
No, it's life. It's life. It's here. COVID. I attended 3 MIT online courses during COVID to learn about artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and machine learning. That
Hey, just a plug for our AJL. We have a ton of open to the public courses. If you ever want, check them out on our website. They're great.
I will.
Because we have a brain trust of experts in this organization.
I will check it out.
Okay, so moving on to the next question. In addition to the job board, is there anything else that you would do to help librarians find jobs?
Yes. So I would, in addition to the job board, I think we should make sure that we are funneling all of those jobs that are available to the numerous numbers of listservs that we have, that the ALA has, outside of just the Indeeds and the Simply Hireds and all of those things. We have I'm on multiple listservs, and I get a spattering of the job offers. So the job board is one central location, but we also should have all of these listservs that are diverse and have diverse members. We should be sharing it there, but we also should be sharing them with our partners as well. Because the profession, we always need new folks in the profession and bringing more people into the profession. So we should make those available, again, not just one central location. We should have multiple places for the jobs. And then we also should be, again, just sharing those with throughout all of our profession, academic, special librarians, public libraries, schools. Again, all of us working together to share those job opportunities, because who's to say? I mentioned that I worked at the agricultural library, right? A research library. Now I've spent the last few years working at public libraries. So there's opportunities for you to take your skills, I believe, to other types of libraries as well.
The next question is somewhat related. It says, how would you recruit LIS students and involve them in ALA? So I'm not sure if I think that question is asking students to be in ALA, or it could also be recruiting people into LIS. I'm not really clear on that.
Well, one of the things that I've an answer that I already have prepared, I guess, would be I went to undergraduate school at a historically Black college and university. And so when I was in college, I didn't know anything about becoming a librarian. I mean, I didn't even know that this profession existed. So we need to, first, I think we need to share this with not just beyond where we have LIS schools, but we also need to be looking for all of these areas. I have a business degree, as I said, so I'm a business major, and I've seen programs that work. One of our colleagues, who Dr. Jerome Olford, who's a good friend of mine, he started a program we went to the same undergrad, Lincoln University in Missouri. He actually recruited several men of color was not aware of this profession. One of them actually works here now with me in Las Vegas, and he worked with me in Broward. One of them is a librarian manager at Dayton Public Library. One of them worked for OCLC. So I think, again, it's going back and looking at these other opportunities to recruit into the profession. I also think we should be looking at, people who are looking at second careers. For example, the National Association of School Teachers, right? That's a great area to actually recruit from. So we should do and have ways to recruit, again, not just where the library schools are, where people know about library schools, but other places as well.
Okay, so I'm just going to turn my head to read this next question a little bit. Okay, so this one is related to something you talked about earlier about how we're not teaching our history correctly. This is someone's similar thread question. It says, what about books that truly do create false versions of history, such as books with maps of the Middle East that erase Israel?
That's an issue. That's certainly, again, that's where the librarians, that's where we come in, I believe, and educators come in, because we do have, and we've had for some time. This isn't a new phenomenon, as you know. I've been in I grew up in books, right? So I grew up at the largest book distributor in the world, and I tell you, we used to have all kinds of books, and lots of it didn't have accurate, information. But that was partly our job to make sure we were vetting it. But people would be buying those resources, and people are still today are even buying more of these, material that's created by people who aren't knowledgeable about particular subjects, or creating their own version. I call it creating their own version of history. No, not history. They got their own history, right? So I think we're again, I'm straight up honest. We're overloaded with this content now. Anybody can go write a book. And so that's where librarians and the folks in our profession have to be the gatekeepers of that. Because again, let's say a lot of it is slipping through.
Yeah.
A lot of it is slipping through. But that's where we have to come. I could honestly say, oh, we're not going to buy that stuff, but that's not going to happen, because that wouldn't be a true answer. And I'm going to be I feel like I'm a pretty truthful person. That stuff is going to slip through. And that's why we have our place to actually vet and gear people to accurate information.
So the person who asked this question had a little bit of a follow-up. How should concerned readers, educators reach out to library systems about this? So what if they see a book that they feel is an erasure of the existence of a country, or a flat earth book? Sometimes, again, we don't feel our voices get heard. So, I mean, if we came to you and said, this one says Earth is flat, you'd probably throw it in the garbage. But if we say this doesn't show a certain country, maybe it wouldn't get thrown in the garbage. So how do we make our voices heard on that?
I think you make your voices heard, and this is how people make their voices heard with me as a library director, and through they find something in the book and they challenge it. That's why, again, there's the challenges are in place for good and bad. Unfortunately, what we've been seeing more of is the bad, because people are, right? People are trying to erase, classic American literature.
Yeah, we think
Right.
of book challenges, and what do we think? We think that's bad people,
Right.
But maybe there's the good side, as you
The
say.
good side is that we should be using that's why that is actually, again, why the process is in place. The process is in place for you to send that to me and say, hey, do you know that this says the sun is green? And this
Right.
information is not accurate. And then we review that, just like we review. Literally, I am the one reviewing some of this content sometimes. It comes up to
Okay.
me. So that's, again, the challenges are in place. That's how I would handle it.
As a former vendor, how can we get ebooks at a reasonable cost for smaller libraries? Yeah, that's an easy question. Let's have the answer for that.
So interestingly enough, I had a meeting with Steve Potash, Mr. Steve Potash from Overdrive last night. I served, as mentioned, as the ALA co-chair of Digital Content Working Group. I also had been the digital ebook director at Queens Library. I've been in this book, and not just on the vendor side. I've been on the library side as well. I think as a vendor, the vendors are really in the middle of this thing. It's not the vendors, honestly. It is the publishers and the creators of the content. So if you have for example, if you have a James Patterson's agent who says, no, I don't agree that the public library should have, I believe they should, I don't believe they should have simultaneous access to my content. Then the vendor who is in the middle is still going to make that book available, but they're not going to make it available at a simultaneous access. That's just, so what we have to do is continue. One of the things that we have to continue to do, and I know ALA has been doing this for many years, is continuing to get the laws changed around copyright in the first sale doctrine, right? Just like it is when it comes to physical, we should continue to fight that digital be viewed in the same manner. That's the way that we're going to be able to combat this ebook issue. I'm sorry, Sally.
I just want to say many people in this organization are writers, published writers, children's books writers, and I would say we're not against writers making a living or writers being compensated, but libraries are feeling the squeeze from vendors.
Again, this is one of those no one answer things. I've been doing this for almost, if you look at it from my vendor side and you look at it from the library side, almost 30 years in the book, dealing with books. And again, I'm not saying that either. What I'm saying is that we, in some cases, and it's Steve and I were talking about this last night. In some cases, it's gotten a lot better in that we have, simultaneous use resources. There's so much content being published. One of the things that I did and continue to do as a library leader is I focus on not just on the best sellers. So I would focus on some of the small, mid-sized, self-published resources to actually promote to the library patrons. So that we, because we had it in the collection to get use out of it, and we would actually buy more of it. We're buying more of it here in Las Vegas since I got here. More of self-published and small and mid-sized publisher resources, and not just the bestsellers. This ebook issue is primarily focused on those bestsellers and those high-profile authors. And what we're doing is we've made it a across the board.
Right.
Publishers are bad, authors are bad, issue.
So maybe it's not a one size fits all.
It is not a one size fits all.
So this next question is lengthy. I haven't read it. I'm just going to read it now. Hello, I am a public librarian and Sabbath observant Jew. I have run into issues in my career where I have been held back from a position or was discouraged from applying in the first place because I'm not able to work on Saturdays. This runs into a fine legal line between making required religious accommodations and serving the needs of the library itself for the staff to have equitable schedules. Of course, there are other forms of hiring discrimination that affect library workers. What role do you see for ALA in encouraging libraries to hire and accommodate staff with varying needs?
Yeah, this is one of those intentional things that I'll talk about, and that I would share with my library director colleagues, and have shared in some cases. What I've done when it came to folks who needed we'll call it a religious accommodation, and we would hire them or promote them. We would actually put them in a library or have their schedule accommodate their their religious needs, their needs, right? So that's what I've done. That's an intentional thing. So the leadership has to really focus on that and go out and communicate that and say, we're missing out on supporting our staff by being very short-sighted in trying to be equitable in the scheduling, right?
Right.
So that's an issue that can be fixed. Actually, it can be fixed easy. It's really about the leadership really understanding that, are you putting the needs of the organization over the needs of the employee, or are you able to compromise and find an accommodation that works? I've done accommodations where we put new professionals in a place where a librarian couldn't work past sundown on a Friday, or because or maybe it isn't just religion. Maybe you can't see. Maybe it's a vision issue, or so that, which I've had before as well. So we made the accommodation for the employee, and I think from ALA standpoint, it's really about having those discussions, being but actually taking action as well, and saying, that might be a little short-sighted for you.
Yeah. And I'd just add that you're missing out on a big pool of talent if you're not able to hire and promote people who have restrictions.
That's correct.
Whether it's disabilities or other. And
that's the short-sightedness. I would say that I try not to cut off my nose to spite my face.
So we have time for one more question before we do our concluding notes. We have one that says, ALA's conference's busiest day is Saturday, which excludes those who observe the Sabbath. Any willingness of ALA to consider the conference schedule? And I would just say, why is it on a weekend? I don't want to give up my weekend. So maybe they could make it, a Monday to Friday or a Monday to Thursday kind of thing. I've been fortunate to work in academic libraries where I've been supported with the days. I understand for other people that it's their personal time, but public librarians work on Saturdays, Sundays anyway. So they may be giving up the best days of the week. I know that Sundays are often a higher paid day. Yeah,
I think this is one of those ALA contract questions where they've made these accommodations. You know, I'll tell you, and ALA schedule is just so that it comes together. Like, why every Monday did we have to have the MLK breakfast? Okay. Why every Sunday night, the Black Caucus used to have our membership meetings on Sunday night, every Sunday night for the last 30 years. So I think that, you know, with ALA's scheduling and as part of the transformation and re-looking at ALA as a whole, these are all topics that we, the membership and ALA, are going to have to look at as we transform, and you know, as we hopefully have in-person conferences again soon, that we can look at the schedule, and you know, just like what we're doing with what used to be called midwinter, right? It's now going to be LibX Learn, and that was, you know, primarily because of, you know, attendance and other things, right? Vendor support. So I think now is the time for us to be looking clearly at our business model. Again, not that it may or may not change, but it's time to take a look at these things and ask those questions, and also having your voice to bring to folks' attention that, hey, do you know that I'll call it accommodating. You're not accommodating us because of the Sabbath. I mean, that's where these things. Now's that time to look at that and have those conversations. And I've been a member for many years, and you know, I'm happy that you had me come, because I'm being educated tonight on issues that I hadn't even been aware of. So you're bringing things to my attention clearly that I've been tunnel vision. So I knew about things that I knew about, right? Like I said, the Black Caucus meeting on Sunday night. Why is it on Sunday night at 6 o'clock? And I used to ask that question of the BCLA, and it was like, well, this is the only time we can have the membership meeting, which is one of the best times at ALA to do other things, right? So I think that's where we need to look at. I would not be opposed to a Monday through Friday, but again, as you know, these ALA midwinters and ALA annual conferences have been planned out many years in advance, and these dates selected. So now is the time to take a shift while we have this downtime where we're not actually meeting in person. Sometimes people forget why we do things, and then we just keep doing them. There probably was a good reason. I don't know what it is. So yes, me either. But it's a question that I'm going to ask Tracy when I talk to her. Sure. Thank you. So I am going to thank you, Kelvin, for joining us today. Thank you to the attendees for joining us today and for your questions that made this such a vibrant conversation. Kelvin, we appreciate your time and your commitment to librarianship. And before we go, I just want to invite everyone to join us for a companion event. AJL presents a conversation with Emily Drabinski, candidate for ALA president. That will be on Wednesday, January 19th at 9 a.m. Pacific and noon Eastern. Registration can be found on the AJL website under the calendar of events. Again, thank you, Kelvin. This has been a terrific event. Thank you for having me. You're welcome. I hope that it's been as a good conversation for you as it has been for me. And I hope that I look forward to seeing you, and I hope and I look forward to having you vote for me and your support as well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kelvin. You've been great.
Thank you, Kathy.
Really appreciate your time very much.
Thank you. All right.
Sean, can we just stop the recording, and then if we want to stay on and chat, we can.